Wish Distinguished guests, dear professors and participants, welcome to the International Balkan University. It is a great honor to open this scientific conference dedicated to the 100th anniversary of the birth of President Alija Izetbegović, titled 30 Years After the Dayton Agreement, the Legacy of Alija Izetbegović. This important event is organized under the auspices of the Balkan Research Center at the International Balkan University. I now have the honor to kindly invite the head of the Balkan Research Center, Assistant Professor Dr. Flamur Ismaili, to deliver his opening address. Dear Professor, the floor is yours.
Dear Rector of the University, Professor Dr. Lutfi Sunar, members of Parliament, distinguished guests and colleagues, on behalf of the Balkan Research Center, I would like to express our sincere gratitude for your presence on this event commemorating the 100th anniversary of one of the most prominent figures of our time, President Alija Izetbegović. We honor his remarkable legacy through this international conference that we have titled 3 decades after the Dayton Agreement, the legacy of the President Izetbegović. As a team of Balkan Research Center, we have devoted a significant effort to organizing the conference, and tomorrow it will have a new stage of conference with more than 18 persons, 18 academicians who will present their research paper in Blue Amphi. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all my students for being present here, to Mircea Smailović for her help, to all valuable assistants, to the delegation from Sarajevo, including the members of the Foundation of Alija Izetbegović. Also, I would like to extend my deep appreciation, also goes from the CEO, from the founder of Logos A, Professor Dr. Adnan Ismaili, Professor Dr. Ismail Bardi, for their help on bringing the delegation here from Sarajevo. I want to thank you again, and I'm wishing you a joyful and inspiring panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your inspiring words. Now we will continue with a rare and valuable video of the President Alija Izetbegović, recorded during the founding assembly of the SDA in North Macedonia on 8 August 1990 in the Tetovo. Let us to take a moment to watch this historical footage.
Draga moja braćo i sestre, dolazim vam iz Sarajeva, iz dalekog Sarajeva, i odande vam donosim srdačne selame od preko 350.000 članova stranke IBU. Ta stranka je nedavno osnovana, prije nešto preko 2 mjeseca, postala najjača politička snaga u Bosni i Hercegovini. Vidim ovdje govorite na više jezika i mislim da se mi ipak svi dobro razumijemo. Ja sam vas razumio, iako ste govorili albanski, i evo ja vam govorim bosanski i ja se nadam da me razumijete. Mi se ponekad razumijemo i šuteći, jel? Ne dolazimo ovdje da vas dijelimo, ne dolazimo ja i moji prijatelji, dolazimo da vam donesemo nešto nade. Nešto nade u bolji život muslimanskih naroda u Jugoslaviji. Ta nada ima jedno ime, ona se zove demokratija. Danas ima skoro 6 miliona muslimana u Jugoslaviji. Budemo koristili naša prava i ako budemo znali, mi ćemo poboljšati naš položaj i nećemo više nikada biti u stanju u kome smo se nalazili. To zavisi uglavnom sada od nas. Danas je došla demokratija u ovaj grad. Nemojte dozvoliti da je odavde prognaju. Neka se ona učvrsti ovdje. To zavisi samo od vas. Budite u to uvjereni. Uvijek kada razmišljamo o muslimanskim narodima, vidim ih kako se rasuli širom Jugoslavije. Od Ljubljane, preko Zagreba, preko naše Krajine, preko Sarajeva, Sandžaka, Plava, Kosova i do ovdje, do Tetova pa do Bitolja. Liči mi to na neki planinski vijenac preko Jugoslavije. I to je uistinu planinski vijenac koji se ne da pokrenuti. Vidite, stara Jugoslavija nas je osiromašila bila, nacionalizovala, naše najuglednije porodice bila bacila na prosjački štab, zatim su nas četnici klali, uništavali nas fizički, zatim je došao Ranković sa svojim iseljavanjima. Muslimana je iseljeno nečujno iz ove Jugoslavije, iz ove zemlje. Stotine hiljada ljudi, desetine hiljada porodica. Međutim, mi postojimo i dalje poput onog planinskog vijenca preko Jugoslavije i ne damo se uđu. Spomenuo sam tu tako magičnu riječ koja se zove demokratija. Ta dolazi i dajte da iskoristimo. Mi u Bosni i Hercegovini ćemo iskoristiti da sačuvamo Bosnu i Hercegovinu kao suverenu državu tamošnjih naroda, muslimana, Srba i Hrvata. I nećemo dozvoliti da je rasture, kao što žele da je rasture, da je podijele. Neće to doživjeti. Dalje, ta demokratija će osigurati za Sandžak kulturnu autonomiju Sandžaka. Dalje, ta demokratija će osigurati legitimna prava albanskog naroda na Kosovu. Ta demokratija će osigurati i vaša prava da živite u skladu sa onim kako vi želite ovdje na Tetovu i u Makedoniji. Hvala vam velika, braćo, živjeli.
Next, I am pleased to invite the Rector of the International Balkan University, Professor Dr. Lutfi Sunar.
Dear Ambassador of Turkey, dear Member of Parliaments, dear Member of Boards, dear colleagues, respected professors and beloved students. Welcome to International Balkan University. It is a privilege to gather with you on this meaningful day as we mark 20 years since the birth of Alija Izetbegović, a leader whose wisdom, courage, and humanity still guide us. Here in Skopje, at the heart of the Balkans, we remember not only the president of Bosnia-Herzegovina, but also a thinker and a moral voice for our region and far beyond. Alija Izetbegović was more than a statesman. He was a person of deep faith, as we saw in his wonderful speech, and serious intellectual whose life stood for justice, truth, and human dignity. In the darkest of times, he reminded us that morality is not a luxury we keep for peaceful days. It is a duty, especially when it is hardest. He said, "Do not forget injustice, but never allow hatred to take over your heart." This is a hard, brave kind of wisdom, one that resists revenge, refuses division, and rejects despair, especially rejecting despair. It's a wisdom we must teach, preserve, and practice. Izetbegović believed in a democratic united Balkans built on a mutual respect and shared humanity. We knew that real peace can't grow out of fear of domination. It grows from dialogue, understanding, and justice. For him, democracy was not just a system. It was a moral commitment to protect every person's right to live freely, think independently, and believe sincerely. As our societies face polarization, inequality, and the loss of a moral clarity, his call for ethical leadership and responsible freedom feels more urgent than ever. This year also reminds us of the Dayton Peace Agreement, which ended a brutal chapter in our history. The memory of Srebrenica and all the innocent lives lost teaches us that silence and indifference are allies of injustice. And as we witness of suffering in Gaza today, we cannot be silent. The loss of civilian life, of children and families, calls all of us to a moral awakening. If Alija Izetbegović were here, he would remind us that being human is our most sacred identity. Our task is to define that humanity in Bosnia, in Palestine, in Gaza, and wherever injustice threatens to extinguish the light of the conscience. Dear friends, dear guests, International Balkan University was founded to form a new generation of ethical, thoughtful, and responsible leaders. Young people who build bridges across nations and faiths through knowledge and compassion. These are the values that defined Alija Izetbegović: justice, wisdom, peace, and human dignity. For us, education is not only the transfer of knowledge. It is the shaping the character, the cultivation of conscience, and the building of bridges where others build walls. In this sense, Alija's legacy is alive in Balkan University, in our classrooms, in our research, in our students who came from across the Balkans and beyond. As we celebrate the centenary, let's remember, Izetbegović's legacy is not a monument to the past. It's a guide for the future. Let his life remind us that faith without justice is hypocrisy, and justice without compassion is cruelty. Let his example move us to think clearly, act bravely, and serve humanity with humility. May we, as educators and students, as leaders and citizens, continue to carry his torch, to stand for truth, to build peace, and to keep alive the moral soul of our region and our role. Thank you for coming today here. I am always, thankful to Professor Sabina to attend this meeting, to the special guests from different parts of the Balkans and different parts of the country, and also I'm grateful to Balkan Research Center to organize this great activity. It is an honor for us to commemorate Alija Izetbegović's legacy in our university and to make it alive in our hearts. Thank you.
Now, it's my distinct honor to invite Professor Sabina Izetbegović, the daughter of the President Alija Izetbegović, to take the stage and address the audience.
distinguished members of the Macedonian Parliament, distinguished minister from Turkey, distinguished rector of the International Balkans University in Skopje, Professor Dr. Lufti Sunar, respectful professors, dear friends. Let me start by expressing sincere appreciation on behalf of the Alija Izetbegović Foundation to the organizers, the Balkan Research Center, and the International Balkan University, as well as to the participants of this important event. And thank you, of course, for inviting me to be here with you today. The Alija Izetbegović Foundation was established in Sarajevo 6 years ago with a mission to preserve and promote his intellectual and ethical legacy. His entire life was marked by the pursuit of freedom. He believed that all men are born and have the right to live in freedom. It was from his faith, actually, that he derived his sense of freedom as the highest value of human life. And freedom is the source of all other universal values of humanity that he stood for, like human dignity, equality, tolerance, justice, democracy, and so on. Of course, there is a political aspect to his legacy. Historians and political analysts will certainly have their say about it. Yet, as someone coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina and visiting in this beautiful city of Skopje, in the friendly country of Macedonia, I cannot but remember one significant moment in his political biography. I worked as his personal secretary and interpreter during 1991 and 1992. And I witnessed numerous rounds of negotiations before and after the collapse of Yugoslavia. The then president of Macedonia, of the Republic of Macedonia, Kiro Gligorov, and Alija Izetbegović, the then president of the presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina, were the voice of reason in those turbulent times. They were the only politicians who truly tried to prevent the war and the breakup of the country, where, as you've heard on this video, Bosniaks were like a mountain range running across the country. They offered solutions to the crisis, including the idea of the so-called cascading or asymmetrical federation. But the forces of division and war were stronger. When the cannons speak, the voice of reason cannot be heard. 30 years after Srebrenica genocide and the Dayton peace agreement, scientific insights and discussions can help us learn important lessons from the past for the sake of the future. This conference is a significant contribution to it. In that regard, we should also bear in mind the UN General Assembly resolution on Srebrenica of 23rd May of 2024. I quote, inviting all member states, their academic institutions, and other relevant stakeholders to ensure appropriate education and public awareness raising activities regarding the Srebrenica genocide. Regrettably, we do not see that sufficient efforts are being made in that respect in the region. But it is a high time for this topic to be incorporated into the regular history curricula in our schools. And it is up to us to find a way in order for that to really happen. I wish you a successful, interesting panel, and I'm looking forward to it. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, dear Professor, for your inspiring words. Finally, I kindly invite the Assistant Professor Flamur Ismaili to continue with the panel discussion. Dear Professor, the floor is yours.
I have combined three professors. Professor and academician Ferit Muhic, philosopher and thinker. I kindly invite you to join the stage. Professor Mr. Feris Nanic, academician and distinguished head of cabinet of President Alija Izetbegović, author 4 books in Bosnian, the latest titled Alija Izetbegović, a short biography, already translated to Turkish, as well as several articles on him in Bosnia and Croatia. Also, my valuable professor and colleague, Kire Sharlamanov.
Yeah.
Dear guests, thank you for participation. We kindly, the event and the panel discussion will be held in accordance about genocide, international justice, and state responsibility. I have tried to combine the professors, Professor Muhic and Professor Nanic, who really know Alija Izetbegović, the President Alija Izetbegović, close, and also our Professor Kire Sharlamanov, who will explain us about moral aspect of international justice and international law. At this aspect, my first question, it will go for Mr. Nanic. Mr. Nanic, you are a founding member of Alija Izetbegović SDF party. You have worked with him closely for around 15 years, and you have been head of his cabinet. You have published 4 books about his life, his legacy. I want to ask you a simple question. When he called you that, Mr. Nanic, I need you, we are forming a party, what inspired you to go?
Well, does this, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, that's good. He inspired me because the way he approached me, the way he approached many people was actually something that reminded me very much of the method used by George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. They were inspiring with ideas much younger people than they were, and gathering them around the vision which he, as we saw at that video clip, said that was a democracy as a method to ensure the better life, the equality, and the equal chances. So the idea, the way he approached me as a very young, I was 25 at that moment, that was in 1989. He just got out of prison, and he invited me as a person who was, you know, at that time, I was writing for some Croatian papers, and in Croatia at that time was, let's say, a bit advanced in democratic processes than it was in Bosnia in 1989. And of course he didn't miss that. But he didn't talk to me as a person who would know something about some specifics of Bosniaks or Muslims in Zagreb, in Croatia. No, he invited me as a very young person, I was 25 years old, to join him in an adventure that was forming a political party 50 years, after 50 years in one party totalitarian system. That was very inspiring for a man, for people like, for a man like me, a very young man, because I felt that I was truly a part of this sorry, yes. This is how he inspired me. He said, join me, you will be a part of it. I don't need just your hand, I need you to cooperate with me.
Did you have any doubts?
No, not at all. Because Around that time, I read Islam Between East and West. And by reading Islam Between East and West, I understood, I completely understood the dilemmas that were challenging my father, challenging my family, and the answers to these dilemmas that he gave in a philosophical manner, of course, but in a language that was, of course, philosophical, but it was acceptable, it was intelligible to the people it was addressing to.
Thank you, thank you. Professor Sabina mentioned Dayton Agreement. Well, I have my next question. Professor Muhic, we understand that Dayton Agreement was the best agreement that could have been achieved back then. Why do we understand that? Seeing from today's perspective that after Dayton Agreement in Bosnia, they were not able to achieve another agreement. So that tells us how difficult it was to get to that agreement. Although we can have some kind of criticism, and we have two strands here. The first strand, it says that Dayton Agreement stopped the war and it is so successful. Another strand we have, it says that Dayton Agreement institutionalized ethnic division in Bosnia. In which strand you would belong? It's a difficult question.
Excellencies, do you hear me? No?
Let me okay,
no, okay. Your Excellencies, extinguished colleagues, dear friends, first of all, allow me to express my great satisfaction and honor to be here. 9 years ago, I was the part of this team of the IBU University, International Balkan University, till the end of 2016. And then I was the member by the end of beginning of the 2017 of the Macedonian Parliament, so I stopped. It's great to be here again. I feel like emeritus professor, really very honored with this invitation. I highly appreciate it. Now, concerning the Dayton Agreement, there are many controversies and contradictory interpretations, and rightfully so. I had a chance to take really good look in this agreement since when it was mark of 20 years of the agreement, 2015. I was invited by Al Jazeera to write a study about this agreement from the beginning to that 20 years, the effects of that. And it's interesting what I found there. I will not keep you too long, but just to tell you, according to my conclusion, the Dayton Agreement was very carefully written document. Anything that looks unfinished, it's very carefully finished there. Everything that looks like undefined, it's very carefully kept to be explained in both possible ways to keep the ambiguity of interpretation. And it was made, I would say, on the highest skill of diplomatic level to attain three main goals, to have three main effects. The first one, to stop the war. That was clearly done. The second one was practically to replace pre-war Bosnia and Herzegovina, that was constitutionally, economically, territorially integral state, even called Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and as such it was the member of the United States. When the Dayton Agreement starts. practically when Dayton conference started. Anyway, so it was made very carefully to replace the integral state recognized as Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina with divided, only nominally integral state, but practically on all levels very carefully divided, so it cannot be easily seen. But it can function that way that you cannot integrate it without very serious problems and without, which was obviously seen in the right of the smaller entity, RS, which is even as adjective, practically breaking the elementary rules of the contemporary international law because it proclaimed one territory as its own territory. Whose this republic is? It's Srpska. This republic is Serbian republic. And you cannot do that, but obviously you can. Anyway, so to replace with this post-war divided, which will formally be unified and which will very carefully limit the possibilities of RS to take out from this formal unity. And the third one was to define a set of very precise, although almost hidden, not very visible, articles which will practically prevent the changing of this stalemate. You cannot move forward and create a really peace framework and the document that will enable Bosnia and Herzegovina to become again an integral state living together on all its territory and with one constitutional framework. If you don't change these parts, because these are made as small obstacles, as nails on the road, so to say. There is no time to take, but it was more than 55 pages. And looking for this paper, for the documents of this paper, I come across one report signed by the USA colonel, who very lucidly listed all these small obstacles and said, although they could be removed, it's of the utmost importance to keep them there. Because if once they are removed, they could make the rapprochement. So the Bosnia could start to be again united. And this is not what we need now. We need it now to stay in this stalemate situation. And I quote this document there. So obviously this document is still here, and obviously it did not create a real possibility for changing, for moving a two-step further than the first step, stopping the war. You notice many tensions, you know what's going on now with this Dodik, which is again unclear whether he will remain. Perhaps he will remain again the president. It depends not on the constitutional law of Bosnia and Herzegovina. It depends on the interests of the other factors of so-called international community, which is really strange. I mean, we call international community, let's say 500 million people. And 8 billion people, they are not part of the international community. What about their opinion? You can see that also with this what's going on in Gaza. Palestine is state, recognized now by 183 states. Of the important states, only 2, United States and Israel, does not recognize it. And that's again to think about the democracy. You have 400, let's say 350 million people, United States plus Israel. And you have again 8 billion people who thinks there should be the situation should be changed. Palestine should be recognized as a state. But where is democracy?
There is also one, there is, sorry for interruption,
Yes.
there is also one strand of politicians and also in Bosnia, also who clearly thinks that the main points of Dayton agreement are not fully implemented. And there is one other strand in Bosnia, who finds the gaps of Dayton agreement and attacks the previous governments. You know, government of,
Yes,
of
yes.
President Izetbegović. I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
Just a second.
Yes.
I want to ask Professor Kira a question. When we come to justice, you know, there will be a time where justice will be served, either in Gaza or historically speaking in Bosnia. When we come to justice, Professor Kira, do you think that justice imposed from outside can really lead to stabilization within the society in Bosnia?
Okay, that's just how it is. Is it you're listening? Okay. So it's very complex question regarding justice and especially international justice and how it is working and especially how actually is corresponding with national states and especially public that is created in national states. I think that in general justice and also especially international justice, it needs basically to be based on protection of values and especially values that are universal. It means that it needs to be cosmopolitan on one side, and on another side actually when you have that kind of decisions. I think that we already have that kind of decisions by a Hague Tribunal and so on. But after that, the real question is how those decisions basically are accepted into national states, in their publics and so on, so how they are resonating. My personal opinion here is that actually that what we need is a little bit higher level of integration between supranational institutions on one side, including here judicial institutions, and national states, in a way in which those institutions, once when they are making decisions and so on, those decisions are going to be accepted also by public in national states, and in this way individuals that are convicted, because that's what is happening, what is the problem that we can locate, at least I can locate that problem, is that they are they are playing card of their ethnicity, nationality and so on, and they are having interpretations of those decisions that actually are more or less particularistic. It means that they are looking at those decisions from viewpoint of ethnic background that they are having, not as some decision that actually it is concerning, because when international institutions and judicial institutions are making decisions, they are having a little bit broader viewpoint regarding issues, and here they are not thinking too much about one or another ethnicity, one or another state. They are thinking about protection of human rights, and especially the basic human rights is human life that need to be protected and so on. So I think that what we need basically is development of that kind of discourse and development of that kind of, let's say, a more complex communication in which actually public, that national public, it is going to influence even over those people that actually are more or less having, as we already mentioned, a little bit more particularistic interpretation of that, what are decisions of international instances, judicial institutions included here. So in this way, if we had, for example, let's imagine that kind of situation in future, some decision that is made, it needs basically to be accepted, to be adopted without any kind of doubts and so on. And of course, always there will be, in the end, if you're going to look, different interpretations regarding decisions and so on, but that what institutions are, how they are working and so on, all the time, and as sociologists I can tell you that they are producing social facts. They are by themselves social facts, and they are producing, and they will need basically to impose their decisions, and those decisions to be accepted properly by people in the national level. So in this way, if you have that kind of community that is created, decisions that are made by international instances, judicial instances, are going to contribute for a reconciliation of the situations. In other case, if it is as it is, for example, today in many national states, when you have even some decisions and so on of the court, and after that, people that are interpreting them based on their ethnical background, and after that giving a lot of misinterpretation of those decisions and so on, it is just creating, instead to reconciliate relations, it is just creating national tensions, especially if you have divided societies and so on.
Like in Bosnia. Well, we have seen,
like in Bosnia.
When you mentioned, for example, international justice, international law, nowadays we are seeing a total failure of global order, especially with the situation in Gaza. But it's not a surprise, because we have seen that in Bosnia, in Balkan wars also the same, where the humanitarian aid it's not even allowed to enter the country. This is something beyond genocide that we cannot even define. And I want to, Mr. Nanic, I want to keep you at your personal experience with the President Alija Izetbegović. That's how I combine the panelists. Your personal experience. We as Macedonian citizens, also from Balkans, we know President Izetbegović to be a great philosopher, a great activist. We know a wisdom man, and I want to ask you how his theological work helped him to shape his political goals. For example, when you're a politician, you have your own goals where you want to be. And how did his ideas, his thoughts, his pro-Islamic stance helped him be where he wanted to be? How did he win the election in '90, for example?
Let me try to explain it through his thought. In his foreword, in the foreword of his capital work, Islam Between East and West, he clearly defines Islam as a way to achieve a balance, a coming to terms of the eternal or basic duality of the universe. The man, as a rational person, the man as a rational being, as a human being, is trying to achieve this balance, this coming to terms with the dualism, through a drama of his life. And how do you achieve this coming to terms with dualism? How do you get rid of the dualism that is surrounding you? Is by choosing the middle road, the middle way, is by acting in this balance between personal and social, between public and private, between all other dual experiences you might have during your life. So that's how he defined his politics. It's the middle road. You have to be able to balance the society, to balance various different societal trends, tendencies, etc., through the set of values and principles. This is how he shaped his policy. This is how he actually won the majority of Bosniaks in the 1990s, as you asked me, because he was the one who gave them this idea, this notion that the middle way, the way of balancing, the balanced approach to solving societal problems is the only way. But it is a God-given way. It is the way that God has given us as an inspiration through his revelations and through the books of his revelations. This is how he conceived Islam. This is how Islam really shaped his political work. Islam as the balance, as coming to terms, which actually Islam is, the meaning of Islam is not peace. It's coming to the peace. It's coming to terms with peace.
A path.
Yeah, this is the idea. So the coming to terms with peace, with this, to pacify between these dualistic aspects of your life, including, of course, the most important, which is the politics. This is how, and this is what inspired me also, inspired a lot of young people at that time, because they kind of sense, because he know how to transfer this knowledge, how to transfer these concepts to young people. Because his language was philosophical, but it was not burdened with let's say, unintelligible terms. When he talked directly. When he talked he talked reasonably in a way that could be understood by everyone.
Well, that's impressive because as Abraham Lincoln said once, that a good politician, he knows what he wants. This is what Alija Izetbegović, he knew what he wanted. He knew where he wanted to be, and he knew where his country, his people, and his region, where he wanted to be. I'm coming back to Professor Mujic, and we know that the term genocide, it is widely used today, the concept of genocide. And in this context of genocide, how can we understand the state's responsibility? For example, there is genocide, and there is victim, and there is the state who is committing the genocide. At this sense, can we have justice without the state who is committing genocide acknowledging the guilt? No. Okay.
Well, on the level of, you sure you can hear me?
Don't turn it off.
Okay, now. I would say that even on the level, on the individual crime, the whole responsibility only theoretically goes to the individual, because there are always some other factors that should be taken into account. So individual responsibility is limited even when the crime, he who commits the crime is individual. So it's impossible to reduce the state crime on the individual responsibility as they tried. Even more so, since if individual crime is not only individual, then the state crime is absolutely not individual and cannot be reduced to individual. It's only the smallest part of the responsibility of that state. But that state should be entirely responsible, not to say only this or that. The Nazi Germany in its entirety was, so to say, proclaimed to be guilty of what was going on during these 6-7 years since 1938 till 1945. So in Bosnia and now in Gaza, the state responsibility is more than obvious. You mentioned Milosevic, you mentioned Mladic, you mentioned Karadzic, you mentioned even member of Bosnian Academy, my colleague, Čekić, he found 25,000 people connected directly to the genocide in Srebrenica with their MB numbers, addresses, names, 364 or something like that, 25,000. And still it's just a part, it's just a tip of the iceberg, as they said. The whole system of that state is responsible. When they mention, for instance, I really don't like to mention it, but let's say just generally the level of crimes committed in Bosnia, which is hundreds of thousands killed and misused in any imaginable way. It cannot be done with 10,000 people. It's done with hundreds of thousands of people. Most of them came from Serbia. Most of them, more than 80% of the people that were fighting in Bosnia came from central Serbia and from eastern part of Vojvodina. They were taken by force mostly, but they take part there. And so in this respect, of course, that without acknowledging the guilt and accepting the responsibility, there cannot be a truly settling or truly peace between these two states. I really doubt whether ever can be entirely attained a peace between and forgiveness between two states, that one was the victim of genocide and the other was committing the genocide. It will take generations and generations. They should forget that their fathers were victims and the fathers of their friends were committing the crimes of genocide. So in this respect, absolutely I agree with you, although it was only implicitly suggested, but that's absolutely acceptable. There cannot be a truly peaceful solution between, or peace between two states if the state who commit the genocide does not entirely accept its responsibility and acknowledge the guilt. And in this respect, both Netanyahu's Israel and Vučić Serbia not only declined to accept it, they completely denied the existence of the genocide, and Netanyahu, just as you perhaps have witnessed, he showed that we killed so many, and he said, let's say 445 fighters of Hamas. And you know how many civilians? And it was speaking in the UN Assembly. And he said, do you know how many civilians? None. None. Not a single one. I couldn't believe my eyes, but what I want to say, how can you attain peace with the state
without
who insists on that?
Guilt. Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And it's the same with the Vučić, who explicitly denied to accept that Serbia did
the theoretical aspect of professors, they argue that if there have to be a policy in Serbian government or Serbian politics that would agree, that would accept what happened and will say that it was a mistake, just that, like the Germany said to the Holocaust system, it was a mistake. We are shameful for what we have done, and I hope that it will never happen again. Probably the situation in Bosnia would have been better. Apart from that, they didn't accept that, but still, the interference with the Republic of Srpska, with the Dodik, and stranding and blocking Bosnia from joining NATO, blocking Bosnia from joining EU, and still, you know, we have to interfere from, I mean that's another case, another topic, but still, for example, we have Turkish troops there. We have Turkish politics that are really keeping the society stable, like in Kosovo, for example, again in Bosnia and Herzegovina. For example, if we go to compare the genocide, literally speaking, you can never compare the genocide between one or another. Genocide in Gaza, or Holocaust, or let's say in Rwanda, or genocide in Srebrenica. Genocide, it is a genocide against humanity, and acknowledging the guilt is the first step for reconciliation. This is, for example, your idea. But what I have a follow question. There is something that we call moral responsibility. There is something that, for example, if international law fails fails to help us. I want to ask Professor Kire about moral responsibility. International law failed to help Gaza, for example, for 3 years already. What can we do as a professors, as a scholars, as a policymakers to address this international moral responsibility against any country who is committing genocide?
May I kindly add only one word?
Professor Kire, I'll come with 2 more questions for you.
I know that, but concerning this, if you allow me. Kindly.
Yeah, okay.
Just one explanation of my position, to explain my position. It was not mistake. Genocide was not mistake. Neither Holocaust in Germany, Nazi Germany, nor in Bosnia. It didn't happen. Genocide didn't happen. The earthquake happens. But genocide is planned, organized, crime from the state. It's never a mistake. It cannot be done by mistake. It's mistake if you drive car and then you are looking here and, oh, I made a mistake. It's very carefully planned. And that's the problem why there is this moral responsibility. For mistake, I don't have moral responsibility. I have moral responsibility for the carefully planned project. And that's why I always said in Bosnia, always when we are speaking about Srebrenica, to nam se desilo. That's what happened to us. It didn't happen. It was done, created, planned by concrete personalities, state, and everybody. Excuse me.
Thank you for your statement. Yes, I truly agree. It is something structured, orchestrated in all around the globe. I follow the question about what we should do. What's our duty? What we can do to make this moral accountability, these states more moral accountability and responsibility for committing the crimes of genocide. Professor Kire, thank you.
I first of all agree with Professor Muhic regarding his viewpoint about what happened in Srebrenica and in general in Bosnian situation in general. I also think that on one side it is politicians that need to take responsibility when it comes to specific type of actions that were taken, but also even deeper I think that it is important what kind of public opinion you have, because politicians can make different type of statements, but also ordinary citizens in those countries also need actually to accept, to understand first of all what happened, and for this reason I say in first addressing here that actually it's important actually to have that kind of interaction between decisions that are made on international level, and after that what kind of interaction do we have on national level, and media, and not just media, how they are structured, and after that public, and how it is accepted. And if it's accepted like that by ordinary citizens in those countries, politicians, because they need, in order to win elections, to win also vote of those citizens, they are not going to be able to basically deny what happened in Srebrenica and in general in Bosnian War. When it comes to that what you asked me, basically, and first also to say something regarding what my colleague Faris mentioned regarding Alija Izetbegović. So he has more deeper understanding and knowledge about, he cooperated closely with him. I was just witnessing from screen as relatively young person, individual him. And that what I can say is that I appreciate him a lot, and I appreciated him back at that time, because actually it was very calm, very moderate politician and person in general. And first of all, I was thinking, if you're going to look the most, let's say, modest politicians and politicians that were looking for some kind of compromise were Izetbegović and Kiro Gligorov, and you can say that maybe structural situations in those countries, basically, it is influencing them to have that kind of politics. But after that, when it comes to Izetbegović, he actually, I have opportunity to watch him, to see him in some very extreme situations. in which you have a lot of war, a lot of things that are happening, and he stay very calm, he stay very moderate and so on. I was thinking at that moment probably it is not just structural factors, it is also personality of that individual. But now that what Faris mentioned, actually it is even more important. That is the way how he was thinking, a faith, way of thinking that also influenced him in making decisions.
Thank you, Professor Kire. My follow-up question for Mr. Nanic, you know, how did his intellectual work, how did his philosophical stance shape his leadership, his political style, his strategical thinking? Did you have moments that you spoke with him, for example, strategically? For example, you get up in the morning, you go to work, and you meet Alija Izetbegović. It is a nostalgic from this perspective to just think about it. What do you say in the morning? Good morning. So how? What's happening in that office? Can you explain some details that we can just visualize?
Well, let's start from the beginning of your question. It's that I tried to explain in my last reply to your question how his political stance, how his political behavior, how his political maneuver was actually shaped by Islam, by his true beliefs, theological and philosophical. That what Professor Kira said is what really shaped his whole political activity. So this is what he remembered, that he was a balanced man. He was approaching each and every problem, each and every sometimes unspeakable problem with a balanced approach. He was very rational in reaching decisions, but he always tried to base his decisions upon the principles he firmly believed in. How did yes, of course, I would always come before him, of course, into the office. My office was very small, and at that time it was still his war cabinet. His war cabinet in the presidency building was in the middle of the building. It's a huge building in the center of Sarajevo. And his office was very large because it used to be, before it used to be a conference room. And my office was small, adjacent to his. And of course he would pass by me coming to and it was really a very, because he was a modest man. He was let's say he was an average in a contact. He was an average person. He would have never really address anyone in the street or as his associates as someone who is his subordinate. That is how he kept dignity of all of us who had the honor to cooperate with him. He was simply, sometimes he would call me into his office, that big one, and we sat there, and it was not only, strategically speaking. He tried to hear perhaps, a slightly different attitude, because he would like to hear more different attitudes on the same topic, on the same issue. Then he would reach decisions. And it was interesting because he was able to memorize what you said even months before. But unlike me, who was very young at that time, he would use it in a proper context. So my thought that would have been given to him, let's say 3 months before, he would use it in a proper context. He memorized it. It was unbelievable. But he never really, I have never experienced it. It was just once that he slightly raised his voice, annoyed by something what I said. We were in the plane, flying to Denmark, if I remember correctly. It was a war situation, and it was a discussion of the Vance-Owen peace agreement in 1993. And I wrote an essay together with some other cooperators, and this essay was on the let's say on the disadvantages of the Vance-Owen peace agreement. And he looked at me and said, "Do you think I don't know that? You don't have to teach me that. But give me a solution which is acceptable and which is realistic." Because the problem was at that time, many academics, because you asked Professor Kiri about what should academics do. Many academics at that time in 1993, and Professor Muhic remembers it very well, were, critical of everything that the politicians do under unbelievable circumstances. And in 1993, at a first Bosniak Congress, Alija Izetbegović went to the podium and said, "Okay, I listen to all of you, and you are all right. But gentlemen, give me an alternative that can survive."
Impressive, such a pragmatist.
Give me an alternative, and I will follow it, because your knowledge is much more than mine. But that alternative that you are giving has to be viable and acceptable to everyone. Otherwise, it's only, wishful thinking. This is how he acted.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your valuable report. Well, Professor, I mean, it's impressive how pragmatist, how practical. Just give me the solution and I will evaluate. This is his stance. So I would like to ask my question to Professor Muhic again. Do you think that his vision for Balkan regions remains relevant today?
Well, that's a key word that you mentioned. It's a vision. Politicians, if they are properly doing their job, are concentrated on the space-time framework and do what is possible to do with the given elements of the space and time framework. Unlike politicians, the statesman has a vision. Vision goes beyond space-time limits or framework. Vision is always transcending space and time. And that's connected with this. If Alija Izetbegović was only pragmatic, he would remain the politician. But in this condition, it was necessary to be pragmatic. Give me a solution which is realistic and which will be accepted by most of the parts engaged in the problem. That's all. But that's a part of the politics. He was a statesman. He has a vision to create something better, a new world. I would say you can blame this generally and him for this ideal concept that he is utopian. Yes, I would say, what will I answer? I will say yes. Utopia is the country that does not exist on any map of the world. Utopos means the place that does not exist. Negative prefix u, topos, topos place. So it's place that does not exist. That's the state that does not exist on any map of the world. But on the other hand, believe me, not a single map of the world is worth to look at if there is no utopia on it. If there is not, that's still not existing, the better life which we are creating. So he was visionary, and his vision was to remain faithful to the basics of his religion and his moral system value, but again to create the possibility of the life with different, because Bosnia is paradigm of the region in Europe that for centuries had the different religions, different ethnicities, different traditions living together. If you see any city in which, town in which there are synagogue, cathedral, church, and mosque together on the same place, it must be from the Ottoman time. And that was why in Bosnia you have so many that, especially in Sarajevo. So he, based on this tradition, but his vision was to make it possible in new circumstances by keeping the best values of his cultural, religious, moral, practically tradition of Islam. We have to connect Islam with his vision, but I will think that there is one more question in which I would try to clarify this difference. So anyway, yes, he was thinking that the Bosnia and generally Balkans can be the place, and he planned that, he visionalized that, can be a place in which you can live together, keeping the differences and not compromising your own identity.
Thank you, Professor Mujic. You mentioned European Union there in a sentence. I'm connecting to your literal word, and I'm asking Professor Kira, it's my last question. My last question has to do with European Union and Bosnian politics. Actually, there are two questions. One, do you think that the European Union has done, as a union, as not particular states, but as a union, has done good enough for Bosnia? And what do you see Bosnia in the near future in the European Union path?
Bosnia and Herzegovina and European Union, actually, if you're going to look to analyze, they're having a lot of things in common. Of course, in the past, actually, something that is problem of European Union in general is that actually it is a supranational institution, but also there is a lot of influences of national politics inside into decisions that are made by European Union, their politicians and so on, and it is very hard actually to create some kind of policy that is going to be especially policy that is foreign policy, and as region we, Balkan, actually it is actually foreign region of the European neighboring, but still foreign region of European Union.
Yes,
but
I just
but
want to
when it
interfere
comes,
something I want to add to the question so that we make it more clear for the audience. We have, for example, in the Balkans, in the Western Balkans mostly, we have like disordered community and minority rights. For example, when you see the rights of Serbians in Kosovo, when you see the rights of Serbians in Bosnia, and you see the rights of Albanians in North Macedonia, for example, we have a disorderly set of rights. Do you think European Union could address well this kind of disorderly rights? For example, let me give you an example. Serbians want more rights for Serbian country, wants more rights for Serbian in Bosnia, and in the other hand, they are stranding the Albanian community in Preševo and Medveđa. Do you think this double standard is not addressed well in political arena in Western Balkan?
yes, that's when it comes to that issues, there need to be standards that are going to be settled and after that implement equally to all the countries. Another issue here that you raise, and that is also very important according to me, is that actually process of European integration, and especially when it comes to Bosnia and Herzegovina. I think that they are having a lot of things in common as institutions. On one side is European Union, and on another side Bosnia and Herzegovina as state. Both of them, if you're going to look, they started, especially European Union, as peace building project. And we are speaking now about Dayton Agreement also. It was peace building project. European Union, it was not, I'm reading a lot Elias, I write an even book about him, and he's saying when he's analyzing European Union, it is now we are having values that are settled for which they are standing, although we can discuss, are they also implementing double standard policies, are they values always in all the cases implemented and so on. But still, if you're going to look today, maybe you can find, and I think that you can find the values, some values that they are at least try to implement and so on. But they started actually as project, peace building project, not as community of values. Because if you're going to look history, in European Union, in Western Europe, there was a lot of conflicts, a lot of wars, especially between Germany and France, that is now actually the pillar of European Union. And the idea here actually was somehow to create relations, mutual interdependences that in the future are going to prevent that kind of war. And of course here we can look a little bit broader, maybe we can take perspective, and we can look in international relations. When there was just those two countries that were fighting with each other regarding that which one is going to be Piedmont in entire Europe, but Europe actually was dominating with the world, always there was that kind of conflicts, including wars and so on. But after Second World War, if you're going to look, you have two clear winners, United States and Soviet Union, that after that lost that Cold War in 1990s, and they were not anymore that big players, so they needed actually to unite into one supranational institution. But if we speak about, yes?
No, I just wanted to finish.
If we speak about that process of European integration, and when we're speaking here about double standards and so on, I think that in process of European integration of Balkan countries, actually there was double game on both sides. On side of European Union and on side of local politicians in Balkan countries. First of all, what happened in European Union, if you're going to look? After enlargement that happened in 2004, and after that Romania and Bulgaria were, I think, accepted 2007, and after that Croatia, it was created that kind of public opinion, because really, if you're going to look, actually there was stagnation of standard of life. And mostly citizens of European Union were thinking that it is a reflection of enlargement of European Union. So it was created that kind of opinion, and you have a rising of populism for this reason. So basically what happened, European Union was declaring that they want enlargement, but in reality they were not doing anything to do that. Local politicians for Balkan countries also recognized that double game, and they started to play the same game. They were just declaring that they would like to be part of European Union, but in reality they were not doing anything to do so.
Thank you. It's impressive. Thank you. Thank you. I totally agree with that. You know, double standard from both sides. Sometimes we always complain about European Union, but we are not doing our homework at home. We see our justice system from education and all on, and we can see in Bosnia also with from the corruption, and you can see progress reports from European Union. It's different topics. I want to, if you don't have anything to add, I want to close this panel discussion with the rector coming to the stage and delivering some small gifts for our panelists. Dear rector, please join us on the stage.